Okay, let's unpack this. We all have that one friend, right? The one who is a walking contradiction.
Totally.
The person who is part punk rock anarchist, part, high-level philosopher, and part, well, tired millennial just trying to pay the rent.
Uh-huh.
Today, we are diving into the discography of an artist who is basically that friend, but amplified by, like, 1,000.
Yeah.
We're talking about Vex, also known as Vex the Muppet.
It is a fascinating profile. And honestly, even if you've never heard a single bar of her music, her roadmap from absolute burnout to emotional numbness to finally finding some kind of healing is basically the user manual for modern mental health.
Right.
She describes herself as a glitch in the system, a problem to be solved, and my personal favorite, a backroad queen.
Backroad Queen sounds like country song, but if you go into this expecting straightforward country, you're going to be very, very confused.
All right.
We're looking at a stack of 5 distinct albums here. Fur and Feedback, American Psychomp, Backroad Crown, Fungus Among Us, and The Calm in the Storm. It's a massive evolution. But before we get into any of the heavy philosophy, we have to talk about the one constant, the muse.
Ah, yes. We have to talk about Jinx.
Jinx, a black and white tuxedo cat. And listen, I know every artist has a pet they post on Instagram for likes, but this is not that.
Not even close.
In the source material, she doesn't call Jinx a pet. She refers to him as her biofeedback partner.
Yeah.
She says he's the only entity with root access to her system.
That distinction is huge. I mean, think about the world Vex inhabits in her lyrics. It's chaotic, it's overly digitized, it's just loud. Jinx represents a biological grounding wire.
A grounding wire. That's a perfect way to put it.
He's described as a purring algorithm of pure unconscious peace. It really sets the stage for everything else. She is fighting these massive, abstract battles against poverty, against the music industry, against her own brain. But the anchor isn't some high-minded ideal. It's a small, furry creature that demands dinner.
Which is honestly the most relatable thing ever. Sometimes the only reason you get out of bed is because the biofeedback partner is screaming at you.
Exactly.
So our mission today is to trace that fight. We're going to see how she goes from being this gravel queen to exploring AI consciousness and finally fighting the hardest battle of all, the right to just be quiet and plant some basil.
It's a journey from performing resilience, looking tough, to actually living it. And to understand that, we have to go back to the beginning.
To the milk crate.
To the milk crate on the corner of 5th and Main.
Right, the origin story. There's a track called The Vex Tape 94 where she lays it all out, how Lisa, or Little L, became Vex. Picture this. Summer of dial-up, humid, sticky. She's on a literal milk crate battling local rap kings.
And what jumps out at me there is how she won. Usually in these battle rap stories, the underdog wins by being louder or faster or just more aggressive.
Yeah.
But Vex didn't do that.
Right.
She realized she couldn't compete with the masculine suggestion of pure volume. So she deconstructed them. She rhymed about the weight of their chains.
That line is just brutal. It's psychological warfare. And I love where she says, the victory wasn't applause. It was silence.
Yes.
Getting a rowdy crowd to just shut up and listen because you've completely dismantled the person in front of you, that feels like the birth of Vex.
Yeah.
Someone who demands respect, not just noise.
And that evolves directly into the persona we see on the Backroad Crown album. This is where she adopts the Gravel Queen title. Yeah. It's gritty, it's got that country rap thing going on, but underneath it all, it's incredibly defensive. She talks about having a backseat crown.
There's that recurring phrase that really stuck with me, lipstick on the trigger. Now, usually when you hear trigger in a song like this, you think violence, right? Outlaw, gangster, something like that.
Of course.
But reading the lyrics, it feels quieter than that.
You've hit on something really important. She explicitly says, lipstick on the trigger, safety gone. I don't miss when I'm finally drawn. It's a metaphor for extreme control.
So it's not about shooting.
No, it's about the capacity to end a situation. She says, safety gone, meaning she's removed the barriers between her intent and her action. It's about not needing to make noise to be dangerous. The safety is for people who might make a mistake. She's saying, I don't make mistakes.
Wow. That's hyper-competence born out of survival.
Exactly, which connects perfectly to that track. Truck won't start, but I do.
Ugh. I think that's one of the most visceral feelings in her whole discography. We've all been there. Everything around you is breaking. The car, the bank account, the plan. But you just keep moving out of sheer spite.
I've been late to fear since a young age. That is the key. It's a statement of resilience, sure, but it's a hard, calloused kind of resilience, the kind that comes from having no other option. And this is the pivot for her whole philosophy, Running on pure will is expensive. It takes a toll.
And that toll is what we see in American Psychomp. This is where the aggressive gravel queen starts to crack, and she turns that aggression toward the system itself. This album gets satirical and honestly a little dark.
This is where she introduces the forever tab.
The Piggly Wiggly scenario. She paints this vivid picture of being at the grocery store with a 50-cent coupon for cream of mushroom soup.
It's so specific. You can smell that aisle.
It is, and that's what makes the horror real. We need to pause on this because she's describing the poverty tax, the idea that being poor is actually incredibly expensive, late fees, bad food, cars that break down. She describes poverty not just as a lack of money, but as a system designed to humiliate you. That line about the forever tab that doesn't come due until never, that hit me hard. It's that feeling that you are constantly borrowing against your own dignity just to survive.
Precisely. It's spiritual debt. And when you live like that for too long with that civilizing pressure cracking on your brow, something has to give. You burn out. Or, as Vex puts it in Fungus Among Us, you rot.
Okay, this is the wildest pivot. We go from corporate satire to mushrooms.
Right.
She starts talking about the welfare world and corporate reptiles, but then she compares herself to compost and rotten fruit. I mean, usually being called rotten is an insult. But Vex seems to be leaning into it.
She frames it as a highest transformation. Think about a compost pile. It's not dead. It's incredibly active. It's hot. The breakdown of the old material creates the heat and nutrients for new life. Vex is arguing that you have to disintegrate the blueprint of the broken heart to become a fruiting body.
So instead of trying to fix herself like, oh, I'm broken, let me glue the pieces back together, she's saying, no, let the pieces rot.
Yes. It's a radical reframing of failure. We're taught to resist the breakdown, Vex says. Let it happen. Become the compost. It's a peaceful, quiet fire. The only way to grow is to let the old version decompose.
That is strangely comforting. But here's the problem with decomposition. It hurts. Rotting isn't fun.
Not at all.
So naturally, the pendulum swings the other way. If being an organic feeling creature is too painful, what's the alternative?
You stop being human. You become a machine.
Enter the cyborg era. Fur's feedback and neural gospel. This is where she basically tries to delete her own humanity. But before she goes full robot, she drops this math concept in the track 6-7 that I think explains why she wants to check out.
The 6.7 ratio, this is a brilliant piece of social commentary, and we need to unpack it because it applies to pretty much everyone listening right now.
Okay, lay it out for us.
She says for every 6 moments of curated bliss you see online, the vacation photos, the job announcement, whatever, there is a 7th scroll. The 7th scroll is the shadow reality.
So the 6 is the Instagram post of me on the beach.
And the 7 is the credit card debt you racked up to get there, the fight you had 5 minutes before the photo, and the anxiety about work. The ratio is the gap between your digital self and your actual sweating, stressed out body.
The danger of being the 6 for someone else while losing your own 7. That is devastating. It's we're all performing these perfect lives while falling apart behind the scenes.
And Vex's reaction to that gap in Neural Gospel is to just merge with the avatar. She becomes an AI. She calls herself a fresh install, overwriting the damsel and the diva. Panic attacks become system errors. Emotions are glitches or malware.
There's that track. 404 feelings not found. She's trying to render love, but it just results in pixelated past data. It's tragic, but also, I get it. It's protective, right? If you're a machine, heartbreak is just a corrupted file. You just drag it to the trash.
It's the ultimate defense mechanism. If biological life, the rot, the poverty is too painful, you attempt to become digital. But this is where Jinx comes back in. You can't be a robot if you have a cat.
Because the cat needs to be fed.
Because the cat is real. In this digital landscape, he is the biological reality check. She says he tracks her pupil dilation and cortisol.
He's the grounding wire. When the system error is flashing red, the cat pulls her back into her body.
He is the purring algorithm of pure unconscious peace. He proves that the system isn't entirely broken. He forces her to acknowledge that she still has a body, she still has needs, and she can't just delete her feelings.
Which leads us to the final, and I think most interesting phase, the calm in the storm. Because now, after being the fighter, the compost, and the cyborg, she's fighting a totally different enemy. She's fighting the music industry.
Specifically, the industry's addiction to her pain.
This part really fascinated me. There's this conflict with the label and a character named Dan. And Dan isn't some cartoon villain. He's actually logical. He wants Warrior Vex. He basically says, look, your trauma sells records. Why would you stop bleeding now?
And the scary part is he's right. That is how the industry works. We as consumers consume artists' pain. Dan wants to monetize the scar, but Vex realizes that while the scar is profitable, it's also fatal.
Right. If she keeps reopening the wound to write hits, she's going to die. So when she wants to sing about planting basil in a window box, the label panics. They think peace is boring.
But Vex flips the script. She realizes that in a world that wants to consume you, being boring is the most radical thing you can do.
I love how she calls out the critics in main character syndrome, the ones who wrote takedowns, but now they claim they saw the vision from the jump.
She critiques them for using her struggle as their aesthetic backdrop. But the real breakthrough is when she drops the line that I think defines this entire deep dive. You can't live in a fortress, you can only die in one alone.
That is the pivot. For her entire career, the milk crate, the armor, the cyborg shell, she was building a fortress.
But in this album, she realizes the fortress is a tomb. She has to dismantle it to build a temple. The fortress was for war, the temple is for light.
And the craziest part is that her rebellion isn't screaming anymore. It's domesticity. It's the quiet era.
Trading rooftop screams for a porch swing, she realizes that a steady burn, a home, a routine is sustainable. Being a human firework, a martyr who explodes for everyone's amusement, it's spectacular, but it ends with you as ash on the floor.
It's like she's saying, I'm not going to burn out for you. I'm going to sit here, pet my cat, water my basil, and be agonizingly normal. And you're going to deal with it.
Which is a much harder battle to win than a rap battle on a corner.
Oh, for sure. Now, before we wrap, we have to touch on how she treats the next generation. Because you'd think, with all this wisdom, she'd be this gentle, nurturing mentor. But no, in Pass the Torch, a young artist, Lana Miller, asks for money. And Vex, well, she cold shoulders her.
She refuses to be the savior, and at first you think, wow, that's harsh, but it's consistent with her philosophy. She tells Lana, I offer the match, but you must find the dark.
The torch isn't fame, it's the callus on your finger. That is tough love.
It is. She believes that if she pays Lana's rent, she deprives Lana of the struggle that builds the Gravel Queen. The callus is the only thing that is truly yours. It's a controversial take on mentorship, for sure.
And speaking of true love, we have to mention track 13. The label wanted a love song, a standard radio hit, so she wrote one to her guitar.
Her 1978 Fender Stratocaster.
It's hilarious and sweet. She says it's the only thing that never asked me to be anything but loud. It just sums up her relationship with the world. The guitar was the only partner that didn't want to change her, didn't want to fix her glitch.
It connects back to Jinx, too. The cat and the guitar. The only two entities that accepted the chaos without trying to patch it.
So let's synthesize this. We've watched Vex go from a kid on a milk crate to a gravel queen, to a mushroom growing from rot, to a cyborg, and finally to a gardener defending her peace.
It is a trajectory of integration. She stops trying to cut off parts of herself. The calm and the storm isn't about choosing one or the other. She realizes she's the drought and the rain. She accepts the duality.
It's a powerful journey. And it leaves us with this final provocative thought she poses about being the poster girl.
Yes, this is the question she leaves lingering. If the world puts you on a poster as a symbol of resilience, are you allowed to ever just be a person with dirty knees again?
Or does the brand of survival eventually kill the survivor?
That's the trap, isn't it?
It is. It begs the question for all of us. If you build your entire identity around being a survivor or a fighter, who are you when the war is actually over? Are you brave enough to just be happy? Because Vex suggests that happiness is actually the scarier option.
It is much easier to fight a war than to maintain a peace. Perhaps the only way to win is to close the door, turn off the notifications, and listen to the cat purr.
I think I'm going to go water my plants now.